What's up, guys? Welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris, and this is part of the Reseller Spotlight series. So today I have Courtney on Posh with me. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to be asking people about their best tips and tricks and sort of how they plan their day as resellers. Courtney, what's the best place for people to find you, and then where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, my handle is the same on every platform. It's at Courtney on Posh, and I'm located in Los Angeles, and I mostly sell women's apparel on Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, and Tradesy.
So are you doing this full-time, part-time? What's your overview?
Yeah, great question, and it depends on the time of the year. I am a pre-K teacher, so during the school year, I have a really minimal curated collection of items that are in a more high-end bracket of pricing so that when they sell, I know I'm getting a good payout. But then during the summer, when I have time to fully commit to it, it's just anything and everything. My closet will go from 100 items up to 500, 600 items just for the quick turnaround.
Are you doing a lot of Zoom right now? What does it look like with pre-K when you have to shelter in place?
Yeah, pre-K is pretty young. It's more about social emotional learning than
hmm
educational learning. So we do Zoom every morning, and it's kind of more so just for the kids to see each other than to be strictly educational.
I saw a Zoom call with I think 4 or 5 year olds that are just playing with an insect at home separately, but on the same Zoom call. So it's very funny how they're trying their best to get community, even if they're all separate.
Yeah,
Just
and
seeing their
parents are
faces.
doing an incredible job right now. They're not getting enough credit, and they really are. So.
Fair enough. So let's talk about where you live. Is where you live better or worse? What's something great and something that maybe sucks about where you live when it comes to reselling?
I think I'm pretty blessed when it comes to, I live in Los Angeles, and I think that it's definitely helpful because there are so many people here that our thrift stores are kind of overfilled with really great brands. And then
Mhm.
on top of that, we have a lot of warehouses here, which means warehouse and sample sales, which I think is equally as important and
Mhm.
as great when it comes to my location.
So on the platforms you sell on, eBay, Poshmark, and Tradesy, do you divide your time equally? How do you manage that?
Yeah, Poshmark is probably my main bay, as they say.
hmm
And then I just cross list to everything else. I'm sort of trying to step into ThreadUp just a little bit because of
hmm
the minimal effort with it. But that's definitely a bigger learning curve than any of the other platforms.
hmm And so what is your goal with the reselling? Is it income based? Is it side hustle or savings based? How do you approach it?
So I guess a little bit of all three. And
hmm
again, it depends on the time of the year too. Although I'm a teacher, I'm still in school. I'm trying to become a pediatric occupational therapist. And so as of right now, I'm completely debt free from school. I pay semester by semester. So that is where I see Posh now. But as I do get into that field and down the line, I think I will always continue to do this. And at that point, I think it will either become savings or vacation money or just whatever my family needs might arise to at that time.
That's awesome. I look at it like that too. I think this is the one of those occupations that you can do forever as long as you're mobile. So I'm gonna just keep my store forever. It's not something. It's a great fun hobby. You can always look at interesting things. And I'm not great at selling women's clothing, but just as a reseller in general, I think it's more interesting. There's more features. There's a lot more history. There's more relevancy. There's trends. It's a lot different than men's clothing, which is pretty straightforward. Brand size oriented, but with women, there's so much extra stuff. How do you learn about a new style or brand or category since there are so many things that you can learn about?
I try to listen to what's going on gossip wise in my friend group and
hmm
also in the parent group at my school because it's a little more affluent. So I get to hear about some brands that I've never heard about because they retail for really large amounts of money. But more than anything, with hearsay and all of that, it's always great to actually go onto the sites and check the brands out for what their resale value is, not their original value, because some items sell for hundreds of dollars, but then you can't move them on platforms to save your life. So I'm always checking the Poshmark solds and seeing what things are actually selling for.
That's awesome. So, how do you manage your day? You have family, you have work, you have reselling. Does it get split up? Are you pretty, I guess, regimented, or is it when you have extra time? What does your day and week look like?
Yeah, so during the school year, when I'm teaching and both in school myself, a lot of it is happening either really early in the morning while the kids are on lunch or when I get home. So a lot of times that's dropping off packages bright and early at USPS before they even open and sharing my closet while eating my lunch because it's the only time I have. But then during the summer or any breaks during the school year, my whole day, my husband says I'm a workaholic. The whole day is basically Poshmark. So,
That's come up on almost every interview. That if your significant other were to describe you, would say workaholic would come up as one of the adjectives. Do you journal or keep a calendar? How do you organize the different tasks?
yeah, I have two calendars and I guess they're more like almost appointment books. One's a teacher-based one, and then I bought the teacher-based one for Poshmark as well, just because it has the extra added things that are kind of for lesson plans and students, but mirror Poshmark in a lot of ways. So I'm able to go in and write down what I'm finding, how much I'm spending, and I keep a log that way.
What kind of extra tools are in a teacher's workbook?
Just kind of what I said before. There's there's drop downs by the day, and
Hmm.
then it goes into kind of like what the main subject is, and then the different lesson plans for that
Hmm.
subject. So I'll kind of go in and I'll say, okay, I'm hitting this thrift store. These are the things I found. This is how much I
Hmm.
paid. And I keep electronic sources too, but for me, there's just something about writing things out that's just so different. So I like to keep track that way too.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite thing ever. I think hopefully, like, I think it'd be cool to leave to my kids my journals if they're, I want it to be amazing insights I come up with. It they're not, but I would love to have it be some amazing thing I thought of. And I can see how a teacher workbook would be like maybe materials you need, maybe certain things you need to emphasize, which makes sense on Poshmark because if you were thrifting and you noticed something, you may want to remember that later
Oh yeah.
and have cool. So that does transfer a little bit. So let's talk about what gets in the way of you being productive. This is, we live in a world full of distractions. You're on social media. You're also an influencer. How does that? How could you be more productive, and what is distracting you?
I think this year I've done a lot better at it, but I definitely would say when I first got started, you're constantly getting the reselling community is amazing and there's so much information, but sometimes it's kind of bad that there's so much information because as we all know, everyone's closet moves differently. And so you
Hmm.
kind of have to feel out what's going to work for you. So just because it's working for all of this group of people doesn't mean it's going to work for this group of people. So I think the biggest thing is just being able to figure it out for you and not listen to all of the extra background noise.
Yeah, I look at reselling information like cake. Like you can eat one piece and it's great, and if you keep eating it, you feel lethargic. You don't do anything. Your store doesn't get any better. If you just go on Instagram for 10 minutes a day, try to absorb one or two ideas, then go try them. It's very different than the endless number of things that people are doing to make it work.
Yeah.
Um, so, what right now is your biggest obstacle in reselling? Is it knowledge? Is it skills, space, mindset, capital, organization? What's the one thing you could do that you think would really push you to the next level?
I think right now it's just time. I've
Mm,
got one more year of the studies that I'm in, and then
hmm.
I'll have a lot more time. So I'm hoping to be able to work. And then instead of going to university afterwards, I can go thrifting and apply all of the amazing knowledge that I'm learning continuously.
So let's talk about that. If you, let's say you get a great job as a therapist and you want to do 10 hours of reselling a week, just for fun or to keep you sane, how would you break that up, the 10 hours that you have?
I think it's so important to be consistent in listing.
Mm-hmm.
So a large amount of that would go into the actual process of getting everything up. But I think it's also important to be grabbing great inventory at great prices.
Mm-hmm.
So it would kind of be a 50-50 between listing and going out and getting things and a little bit of research.
This is also something to recognize that I've asked this question probably a dozen times now, and I've never had the same answer. So no one should try to copy another person's time management because your day is different. You sell different types of items. Certain items take longer. Some items are higher value. Some items need to be authenticated. There's so many different things. So that's fantastic. What do you do for fun outside of reselling?
I am an avid paddleboarder, hiker,
Mm.
anything outdoors.
What's your perfect Saturday?
Hiking, hiking somewhere with an amazing view, preferably over water.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What's the highest profit item you've sold?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's probably I sold this Giovanni. Oh, actually, my wedding dress.
Mm.
But I don't think that counts because it's something completely different. So outside of that, I used to do pageants when I was younger, and so every once in a while, I like to source on ThreadUp because sometimes they just don't know what they have,
Mm-hmm.
and so I notice a lot of pageant dresses they'll put up for like $20. So I grabbed this Giovanni dress for $25, and I flipped it on Poshmark for $350 within a couple days.
Amazing. So the reason why I ask that question is sometimes I ask, can you keep selling that? Could you only sell wedding dresses and source only? Because if you're selling over $200 dresses, you would probably have a small inventory
Yeah.
because there's not that many of them. And another thing that parallels that is there's a lady I know she's an anchor woman. And when you're on TV, it's kind of a faux pas to wear the same thing more than once. So the anchor women trade clothing. And then after it's gone through the circle, now it either gets consigned through a higher end shop or goes somewhere. So would you be interested in only selling dresses? Is that something that you would consider?
I've thought about it before because I do have a lot of pageant friends that have asked me about selling their clothing before.
Mhm.
And you think about it and it's like you could make so much money. But at the same time, with that specific niche, I would say that no, only because pageants have a season. And so during that season, I would be able to make a lot of money, but then I wouldn't really be doing anything for the rest of the season. And I like poshing way too much to be stagnant half of the year.
Fair enough. Yeah, and if you sell common items or more, let's just say like sneakers or workout apparel, that's way more common. It's
Yeah.
not going to be a seasonal. Awesome. So let's talk about what would you do differently if you started over today with a store with zero or a closet with no items in it? How would you approach it differently?
I think the very first thing is I would tune out, like I said earlier, everything that everyone said that you needed to start. I went out and bought everything. That stupid, and if you have this in your closet, I'm so sorry. This is just my personal preference, but the fake wood background, the fake fur sheep rug, all of those things. I went out and I bought all of those affiliate link things because I thought I needed those to be successful. And that's just not what it looks like for me. It might look like that for other people, but that wasn't my style.
I think it's important to recognize right now you're utilizing natural light. You can take, if you get a canvas, you can order one for $10 to $20. You can also get it from the Dollar Tree and take great pictures outside with the sun that no artificial light can compare to when you're just getting started. I love that advice of keeping your expenses low. Just get into it. And most people can just start at their closet. So let's say I handed you $1,000. How much profit would you try to get from that? And then where would you spend it? If it was for inventory only, how would you approach $1,000?
So I think if you would have asked me this a week ago, my answer would have been very different. But with everything that's happened with this stay at home, stay safe movement, I think that, so backstory, I've recently started posting on Facebook about needing inventory. And I think with that, Everyone who donates things, I offer to consign them just because I find them valuable to me and I don't want to just take free donations.
No worries.
Let me throw this so she
No,
goes
it's all good.
away.
This is more this is real life.
Um, I hope she leaves me alone.
She's welcome. Go ahead.
So I've recently been going onto the Facebook groups and saying, that I'm a reseller and that right now times are tough because I'm not able to thrift things from thrift stores, and giving people the option to either donate or consign items to me. And even if they say they want to donate, I still say, are you sure you don't want to consign? And I think that if I were to have $1,000 to restart, I think I would just do that immediately, only because I feel like when it's real people giving you things, especially if they know you personally, because I first posted on my personal Facebook, they want to give you great items because they know that they'll sell too. And so they want, especially if you're doing consignment. And the other great part about that is I'm really intentful with where my money goes. And so that means that $1,000 is actually going to people over corporations. And I like to get out of that.
I like that. And your money usually goes farther, local pickup or through friends, and they may have donated it anyway. So, and they may trade you for like dinner, right? So that's always a fantastic way to arbitrage it. I've had people answer not spend any of it. I've had people say spend it all on one product. So again, everyone remember that everyone is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
What advantages do you have over other resellers? Do you think about this as far as like maybe you have better sourcing, maybe you're better interpersonally for meeting people? And do you think about building relationships at all with suppliers?
I haven't thought about building relationships with suppliers yet, just because it's not a level I want to be on yet. But I think as far as strengths, I think of niches or niches, depending on what part of the country and how you want to pronounce it. I think that's everyone's strength because we all have backgrounds before reselling that allow us to know certain product information. Like when it comes to pageant dresses or hiking brands, I know what's going to move because I have personal experience shopping all of that the whole time I was growing up. You might not have those same experiences. You might have different niches that you come from with your background, and it's the same for everyone. I think our advantages lie in what makes us unique.
That is super powerful. You have the hiking background, you're active, so you know about that type of wear. You also just recently married, so you have that knowledge. And I hated the wedding planning process. That whole thing, I've never fought more. And like, there's so much involved with it. There's so many things. And also the pricing doesn't make any sense. It's like quadruple for anything.
We lived in Hawaii.
Yeah. So it just, you start to recognize, okay, maybe selling is just emotion. And that's really all it is. How does somebody feel when they purchase this item? That's why it's more valuable.
Yeah.
Do you ever model the clothing that you wear? Is that something that you consider, or do you like it, just the item? How do you approach that?
Yeah, if it fits me, it depends on the platform. I definitely don't want to use stock photos. So I've been trying to, if you were to go to my Poshmark today, predominantly most of the photos are me in front of my mirror, holding my phone in front of my face so nobody knows it's me. But yeah, I think
that's great.
it gives people a better idea of what it's going to look like on. So if you have the luxury of being able to fit into the item, then I think it's worth it.
Let's talk about one part of reselling that you would have me do. Let's say I was going to come help you for 10 hours. What would you have me do first? What is something you like the least?
Listing, I find tedious.
Okay.
So probably that.
What about the photo part?
I used to do photography. I used to shoot weddings. So, and I still do sometimes, depending on if they're friends or old clients. So I like that part. That's probably my favorite part. So I would still want to do that.
So would you say
sharing and listing can completely be outsourced for me?
So would you say here's the drive? Let me share the Dropbox folder with you with the photos, and thank you. I'll package and ship. Or do you want to? Have you ever considered having somebody help you?
Yeah, I actually do have someone help me share my closet, and I've
Mhm.
thought about the listing portion, especially since during the school year I don't have much time. Um, but I'm also kind of a control freak, so I don't know. I think I would go in and I would want to like fix everything. So something I'm working on.
Yeah, I think I used to be like that until I met people who, like, over the course of me doing this for 3 years full time, I have met people who are better at almost everything than I am. And I think it's interesting to look at that because I think if I were to work for you, I think it would take me probably 2 months to figure out the way that you like things done for the most part. And I think you would need to not hate me for 2 months while I figure out that part of it for you so I could really assist you. But that is a big hiccup because you only have so much, so you have limited time right now. So
Yeah.
you can't do it and teach someone how to do it. It's kind of a tough situation.
True, but that's going to be that way in any job. If you think
Hmm.
about that, anyone who starts anything, whether it be a personal assistant or any kind of job, it's going to take about 2 months to learn those ropes. So I think
Absolutely.
grace periods are just a part of it.
Let's talk about sourcing. When you go, how do you sort? Do you fill your cart up? Do you sort by category? How do you approach, let's say, 100 pieces of clothing randomly from a friend? How would you go through that?
Good question. So, most of my sourcing is actually done online, even
Mm-hmm.
before all this, just because during the school year I don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was in a physical thrift store, I would search by probably dresses first because that's just where my heart is,
Mm-hmm.
and then jeans, shoes, probably tops last. Because
Got you. Category.
yeah, but if I'm searching online, I search by brand.
Got you. And then do you look for your specific honey hole store? Are you looking clearance? Are you looking clearance sites? How do you approach online shopping?
So a lot of online shopping goes back to wanting to be intentful. So I try to source from Poshmark and Macari as much as I can. Especially new users are always coming on. They don't know what they have,
Mm-hmm.
what they don't know what they have is worth. So they're listing incredible things like Reformation dresses for $10, $15 when they could definitely sell them for 100 to 200. So I love going in and grabbing those because I know my money's going to a person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but liquidation sites and things like that, I get a little weary about because then you start stepping into the possibility that there might be an overproduction of that item and that a lot of other people have it for sale, and that's going to hurt you when it comes to trying to move that item.
I love that because newer people also, there are people that you meet, especially in estate sales or your friends. Some people just want the space. They have no interest in the profit part of it. So you don't know who you're going to run into. You'll meet people who are like, they might even say to you, I have other Reformation dresses. Do you want me to put them in there because I need the space back? Or they're moving. So those situations, do you have a specific way to contact them? And does it just comment right on the item?
So if it's Poshmark, I'll make a bundle and I do exactly what you said. I say, hey, I absolutely love this dress. By any chance, do you have any other Reformation or whatever other brands I see
Mm,
that they have? Especially with Poshmark, since you have to pay the shipping fee, I
hmm.
always ask if they have anything more, or I search their closet to see what else they have because they usually have other items that could definitely be flipped. And it's really great then because you're not paying $6, $7, whatever it is now for one item, but instead you're getting a bulk order.
That's really good. And so, what if it's over 5 pounds? How, do you have them upgrade the shipping? How do you approach that?
Yep.
Okay. So because that's always my concern since I mainly sell shoes, 2 or 3 pairs sometimes are over the 5 pound limit, especially if they're with a box.
Yeah.
So it's always a funky situation sometimes because they need to find a box big enough. And then, but I think especially if you're seasoned, you can walk them through that.
Yeah. Another thing you could do, which I
Hmm.
haven't done yet, but I've reached out to a couple people, which I'm excited about, is I like to keep an eye on posts where people say that they're closing their closets.
Mm,
Because if they have a lot of really great items, you can go in and just say, how much for everything? And that's probably not something you're going to buy on Poshmark because, 5 pounds. But if their Instagram or some other platform is linked in their Poshmark, you can go in and you can personally reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in buying your whole entire closet. How much?
Have
So
you pulled that off before?
I have reached out to a couple people, so I'm in the process right now.
It is the best thing ever. I absorbed a lady's 600 item closet. She not only did she um, sell me her entire closet, but she listed it in my closet.
Oh,
So
nice.
it arrived at my place done. So I was, and her photos were incredible. So I was like, and she told me that she only is interested in the thrifting photography part.
Mm-hmm.
And so she hired someone at her college to list it on my account. And
Oh,
so it's interesting that this is, but I that's definitely a thing, especially if you are busy. Sometimes people, like, I was just thinking, if I were you with your knowledge, I would spend the 10 hours a week only shopping, only sourcing online, trying to do give the other part to somebody else. Or maybe you can do the photographs. Um, but that's amazing. I love the idea of reaching out specifically for the idea of buying the whole closet, because running a Poshmark closet is not as easy. Listing is easy, but running the closet, not so much.
yeah, great.
Do you have a reselling crew? And if so, is it online or is it in person?
Both. I live
Mm,
in Los Angeles, so we have a
mm,
lot of really great resellers here. I
mhm,
have a not a Posh and Sip through Poshmark, but once a month I have a wine. Not now, obviously, but I
mhm.
have a wine night at my house where everybody just comes over and we talk about what's going on, what's changing, what's moving, what stopped. So I think that's been a really valuable resource too, because you don't really have coworkers with this, and this kind of gives you that opportunity to have those kind of talks.
Have you tried it on Zoom?
I did a Zoom. It's so funny. I held a virtual Posh and Sip, I
Mhm,
think in my 6th month of being on Instagram.
mhm,
This is like a year and a half ago, just because a bunch of my friends were from all over.
mhm.
And it was really cool, and I never did it again. And then when all of this started happening and now everyone's Zooming, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should start doing that again. That was pretty fun.
I think it's really fun, and you get to know people, and you can do it more often because it's a little less intense than going somewhere. But the in-person meetup is hard to beat. It's so nice.
Yeah.
So what did do you have an interesting reselling story you want to share, whether it comes to finding something cool or meeting up with somebody, or any experience that stands out?
Um, I think something that's kind of cool
Mm-hmm,
is that the school I work at is affiliated with a church,
mm-hmm,
and in an affluent neighborhood. And once a year, sometimes twice, they have this huge rummage sale. And I don't want to say too much without kind of giving away where I work, because I
mm-hmm.
don't want everyone to go to it. But I
Sure.
think it's really cool because there are some incredible, amazing brands
Mm-hmm.
that you can get for a fraction of the price. Because I'm a teacher, I get a discount. So I think that's probably the highlight of my year, just because I know there's a post on my Instagram, which is just a bunch of show me your moo pieces, new with tags, and
Mm-hmm.
all of those came from that sale. So I think
Amazing.
you can find things like that. Church rummage sales are usually, like, not just my church, like all across the board. I feel like I've never been to a church rummage sale. It's going to happen now that I said this. Knock on wood. That has been bad. People
Well,
want to give.
the purpose is not to make money. That's why that's so amazing, because people want to help.
Yeah.
Also, I've seen, this is interesting to me. There's some resellers that have reached out to me that have deals with their churches. So let's say, for an example, one Saturday a month they do a fundraiser. All the clothing comes in. The people who need clothing get to pick first, because that's great. If people can get stuff for free when their family really needs it,
Mm-hmm.
then the remaining stuff is separated into sellable and not. And then the sellable is either sold by the pound or by piece or something for a donation to the church. And then at the same time, they can order a pickup for donation or disposal, all in one tight, cute event. And that's a great thing to run with your church. It's a win-win for everyone. They don't have to do too much other than set that, third Saturday every month situation. I think that's also a cool opportunity for a school fundraiser. I don't know how to set those up, but that concept, the rummage sale is always great, or the neighborhood sale.
I was trying to think of a way to head and organize it at my university, but like you, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. But then I also think, do I want college kid clothes?
You want maybe when I think of college kid clothes that are valuable, I always think outdoors people
Yeah.
that they're wearing cool or good outdoor gear that lasts, and they usually take decent care of it. Although it might be heavily used, but at least it's the right brands. But yeah, it depends. You'd have to really niche down to maybe even a specific club at a school. So, um, tell me a little bit about how you manage your online. Are you doing YouTube? I saw you making some videos. What is the goal with that? Do you want to eventually make your own brand? What is your vision?
I like to talk.
That's
And
great.
so YouTube is fun. No, all joking aside, when I first got started, there were not as many people sharing resources, especially from non-biased perspectives. So a lot of times I try to share research tips or I'll do unboxings. And when I do them, I try to stay as blank as I can, just because I want to just kind of show like what's happening, because I think that a lot of times, companies will reach out to people and say, hey, like promote my product, and then it will blow up in our industry. And I think it's really important to show kind of real representation and to be able to kind of help people in that arena. So most of my YouTube content is kind of that stuff.
Because I feel like you would be a great brand rep because you're trying to be neutral, and those kind of reviews actually work. If you're like, this is what I wear every day, it's so fake. Like, no one believes that. If you can stay somewhat neutral, though, then people can see, oh, she likes this brand because of this and doesn't like it because of that. That's makes more sense to me. That would actually convert. So I love that. I think right now, ad spend is growing. Brands are recognizing influencers have a lot of power. If you can stay neutral, which is hard in today's age, but that will translate into so many interesting deals that can pop up for you. So hope you continue to do that. How long have you been doing YouTube?
A year inconsistently, and I've just started kind of being more consistent with it since I have so much time now.
Right. I know. It's this interesting puzzle when everyone's at home. So yeah, I hope that, or I mean, I'd like to see where you try to organize it because I struggle with this myself. The content is hard. If you could post something regularly, even if it's once a week on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, the following really understands what you're trying to do. You're a lot more valuable to brands when you post on a schedule, but it's just a lot to think about. So I appreciate you taking the time. I want to commend you, and I want to talk about my favorite tip from you, which was the emphasis on your niche. I think that's so important. Everyone is unique. Everyone, hopefully, you like something, whether it be electronics or video gaming, or you like clothing. All of that translates into an advantage in knowledge. And that's going to really help you get to the next level. I also commend you for starting a gig on the side because it's really hard. I don't think people understand how much goes into it, and especially if you're going to be in the photos. There's more to it. Like you have to think about your privacy. There's a lot of lessons you can learn from having your store. And I love your lifelong mission. So, is there anything else that you want to share with my audience?
I think that's all for today. Just thank you so much for having me.
And just remind people where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm Courtney on Posh on all platforms.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.